How far that I see?
Don't worry, we'll have the video. Everyone watching. I know. Is it really? Is it all the houses make up 75%? I think we need more than that, right?
What are you talking about?
The 351, is that, let me see.
No, it's 489. Okay. Yes, the total.
No, the houses make up 71%.
Yeah.
So you still need some townhouses to buy. Okay, we're ready?
We're gonna get it.
Oh, of course, you're gonna start. Let me just say a quick introduction. That's okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Mario Cordova. I'm the president of the HOA. We got Herman, the vice president, and Corey, our secretary. We're deciding to conduct this town hall. As you guys are aware, that we're all about educating our owners and making sure that our owners understand why we do what we do and what our goals are, so that when you get a letter and you get something that's changing, you understand why it's happening. And it's not just that we're sitting around in a dark room somewhere saying, let's just get these owners for more money, because I'm an owner and I don't like to give my money out for no reason as well. So we had Corey, who's our expert on this word processing and all these type of programs, and knows how to deliver data for us, prepare another presentation. Basically, as you guys know, we did the presentation on the broadband cable situation. Just to give a quick recap, we were in litigation with them, in an agreement to get ourselves out of litigation, which we hope materializes into us being able to buy the contract out within a year and be able to then save money moving forward. That being said, there's nothing written in stone that you have to do this or that has to happen like this. We gave ourselves all the options except litigation. We don't ever want to go back to court with this issue. So that is off the table. We're not going to wind up in court with this unless at some point 75% of the owners decide they want to go to court with it. That would be the only way we'd be able to have to be forced to go. But other than that, our goal is to try to resolve this without litigation. And hopefully we'll get the buy-in from all the owners that we need to make it successful, and in the end, everybody be happy. Okay? So I'll give it up to Corey to go ahead and get started with the presentation. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. We're more than happy to get closer, pull your chair up. I know this is a situation. We'll do that as we have. We'll always do the recording. To go back to this, we're displaying this online. For those of you who are online, probably a little bit better view than you do here in the room. You can always come back and look at this. Okay. So as Barney was saying, we had a proposal before. Some of you, I recognize faces from the last meeting. Others you are new. So what we're going to do is go backwards a little bit, give you a little bit of a brief on what's happening and what's going on. And kind of get us to today, and we'll move forward, which was a lot of where those of you who were with us last time we're looking, right? Trying to look forward to what is this costing? I know it's a big question. So, just like a quick history of what's going on. When they began, they did design disability and they were providing broadband connectivity internet to us, right? As that entered into agreement, there was an investor in you get all of that. In 2003, we entered into that agreement. It was a 20-year contract for these services. 2010, market crash, housing market crash, and everything kind of downhill. The HOA became delinquent in some of our payments towards Villa Dixie, and there was a restructure of our contract. Restructure the contract, they allowed us to pay reduced per month, but that added time. Okay, so that's how we actually expired. Nothing would have happened in 2010. We would have put out of the contract. So with that being said, things were restructured. Bill Dixie also at that point had some financial issues as well. And one of those two investors spun off what is now known as the sole broadband. That's can go to broadband today. Our last meeting that we did was, we were in a litigation, trying to some financial relief from this agreement. And to give you the essence of the agreement, it's the third party agreement. We pay someone essentially to pay spectrum, and that third party costs money. So someone is essentially taking our check and going, here's our spectrum, and reaping also from it. So with that said, the litigation party gets the financial relief as that works with hands. So that was in the direction they want to head. And we were offered an agreement of understanding. We went to the table with this owner and said, hey, look, we're in a situation, let's talk about it. And with that being said, that brings us kind of where we are today. In our last meeting, we took this agreement and said, we'll drop the case. And they gave us an option to essentially buy out the remaining portion. So it'd be a 5 years. So continue this year for the last 5 years, 4 years and 8 months, technically, of our. So that's really a quick history of what's gone on and transpired. So if you look at that history, I know it's a little bit hard to see here in terms of numbers. I want you to get held up on the numbers. I want you to look more towards that pie chart. Right? When you look at the pie chart, that biggest section on the right, the light blue, that's annually what we spend on our cable. So think about like a big ticket item. Grass, cable and internet, management fees are probably the big 3 ticket items that we pay annually. There's other stuff. The water, accountants, regulars, and stuff like that. We didn't nitty gritty with that. But when you look at that, it's a worst tip of our annual budget. Okay, so really, you look at the colors and go, trying to stay here. And again, you can go back and look at the actual numbers. When I get to the nitty gritty, we're going to say. So with our settlement agreement, we were trying to a couple of options that we were given. Now we could continue paying our contract as is. Inflate the agreement, that's what the settlement was. So we're going to continue this year paying as is. Nothing's changed on that agreement. And what this really essentially did is give us time to raise funds to buy out the remaining funds from the contract. The buyout number, right, key number that we're looking for is $475,000. Wow. Yeah, right? So we're running some numbers. They're not a number person, I'm sorry. But we'll kind of summarize it. This is a big idea at the end. But this will get us, like I said, the last 5 years out of our contract. Well, essentially do if we're successful in the money, we'll take that third party, we'll cut the third party out, including the payments to that third party, and we'll pay and work directly. When you do the money and you work the numbers out, which we'll show you a little bit later, this number, even though it's $475,000, actually less than if we were contract as. Okay, so we continue to do nothing and continue to pay. We would spend more money than if we were able to raise the money.
And just to provide a little estimate on that, we're basically buying the contract for about 30% of what we would normally pay over that time frame. So literally, we'll be saving about 65, 66%.
So the thing that we found out of taking this agreement that we signed last meeting was, in the event that for whatever reason we make the fund only been raised $475,000, nothing changes. Our contract continues the way it is. There's no penalties. There's no court rate. We decided to take everything out of it, and we just continue down the road that we're on today. Right? So the board looked at this, and we had a special meeting on it because it had an expiration. Right? All these things have time for this on. So we took over the board with the community, trying to educate as much as we can. And decided that they're more positive than any negative, or a bit more positive than any negative that we could see, and we decided to give it. Right. So at this point, what does that mean for us? Right. So when you look at the annual costs for 2023, about $557,000 is being paid out in get another big scary number. And then with that contract, we have an increase at variables, and we're from all 1 to 5%, and we the potential increase. And that essentially, if we look at this third party, that's spectrum's increase for the services, which then is put on our end. But then you also have that third party who could. So when you look at it, you could be getting 5% anyway, depending on all the services. So when we look at some of these numbers, really the kind of the savings number that we look at, and these numbers have been tweaked a little bit since the last presentation, and we've got some numbers to close out this year. In fact, we were talking this, we still had some items, and we weren't able to get to final numbers. But really what we're looking at is our savings cost here, $1.2 million over the next 5 years. So by raising money, and buying out less 5 years, we can save the association about almost $1 million. Right? That assumes no increase. That doesn't assume any potential increases over the next 5 years. So that's just based on the fees. With that said, let's try to take those numbers and put them into visualization. I like pictures. So looking at these numbers and looking at this blue line and the blue line there, that represents the contract as it stands today. We do nothing. That's kind of a visualization, assuming that we have an average of 3% increase. Sure. So 3% increase every year. That's kind of what the money looks like. Direction. Now, comparing that to our darker line that drops down, this is successful buying. So if we're successfully able to buy out, you see the large drop in numbers, and then there's still, we assume, a 3% increase on our trading. So assume something like that. And then the hard number to come and quantify is if we did litigation. Thinking about litigation on our last presentation, it could go upwards and upwards. We decided to take the settlement when we did and get rid of that. So the orange line essentially has gone away for us. So that left us in our last meeting with really kind of some options. We could raise the money by the end of this year, so by December 2023, that would buy our. The other thing is we continue down the road we're currently on, and nothing changes. We continue the price point, excuse me, and everything that we're doing today. Those are kind of the options we look at. So neither of those options looked more bad, more negative, right? There's no more of a negative spin to it by looking at it in this direction. So the good news was our litigation goes away. We weren't responsible for any cost in a situation with litigation. The person who wins gets their lawyer costs. So if we were to be on the losing end of litigation, we would have to pay the other side's. So there's an additional money we kept going. So that brings us up to today. These are the new slides forward in terms of what's going on. So looking at this, I put some numbers around it. This is our first option going down the road. Litigation now gone. What do we do going forward? So options are going to be easy. We get rid of the money. We continue down the road as we are today. So when we look at this with a possible 1 to 5% increase, we assume, that 3% or so projected over the next 5 years. Showing there's some numbers of what that annual payout would look like. Right? So you're going up about that 3% every year. Right? So by 2028, when our contract is done, we're paying about $646,000, a little less, right? So that quantifies some of those numbers that we look at. So that's option one. Option two, we could go out on a loan, right? Just like in the entity, we could go out, we could try to take a loan. Now, as a HOA, we don't have a lot of collateral. We don't own the clubhouse that belongs to CDD. We could probably get some money out and get the reserve money we have sitting there. Is that a good idea? Is that money? Interest rates aren't all that great right now, and you guys know that. Right? You're out there trying to survive like the rest of us. And the goal was to save money, not put ourselves. So as the board, we looked at this and said, it's not fun. And there was actually another artist managed community who is trying to do just that. That I have had some discussions with that community. And they're trying to use, and they have to get a plastic pool, and they're having a problem getting. They're struggling with some things. So again, why are we gonna go down this route and put ourselves in a position where we're potentially, gonna go crazy? Right, so the next thing, the next thing we can put this, let's call it an HOA special. So let me first explain to you what HOA special assessment is, and then we'll talk. That is, oh, I know, I should explain this, but you are, right? So the HOA special assessment is essentially a one-time assessment to the homeowners to raise funds. The HOA would impose assessments to homeowners, and we would ask to raise funds to be able to pay off this fund, that $475,000. Right? We would have that until December of 2023 to finally pay that off. And basically, when you look at this, there's different options we can come up with a payment. Some people may say, you know what, let me give you a lump sum to get this project done over. Others, financial, say, you know, it's a monthly thing, I can have a good job every month. Other people may say, you know, my budget is kind of a little wonky and I could pay when I could pay, right? So these are all different ways that we could potentially pay. And when you look at our documents, to be very transparent with you, our documents allow our board to impose a special assessment without the community vote, up to 20% of last year's. So without that vote of 75% of our community, the board can vote on this ourselves. That's not something we want to do. We're going to use TownHall.
Would that 20% give you the funds you need?
No, stand by. Stand by. Okay, so special assessment, like I said, 3%, we can impose anything above that 10% of budget, has to go to our membership. And it requires 75% of membership to vote yes for us to be able to impose that. Okay, so it really does take it in a neighborhood. So to put all this together, essentially what this HUD in our special assessment is, we're asking the community to loan the HOA to pay up front so that we can pay off this gorilla that's on the back, potentially saving us $1.3 million for the next 5 years. And then there's the opportunity on the other end is how do we afford it? There's a lot of options out there that we could, you know, do. There's a lot of ideas that go out there. I think one of the biggest ones that you look out there is reinventing. So we'll talk a little bit more about what those potentials could be here. So as we look at this, we looked at our assessments and our budget from last year. We see what's 20%, which is our maximum that we could ask. And that would be 33 a month. So we could ask potentially for 33 months per property to raise the fund, you know, to that for 75 by the end of it. So if you look at numbers, again, if you're not another person, you know, excuse my numbers, but some people are, and I like them. So when we look at the 33 per month, right, that's $387.96 a year. And so it's just about $400 extra, right? So we're going to take that, multiply by the number of properties we have, which is 489, and that gets us to this number here, which is $189,712.44, right? Of that, 475. So it gets us a good chunk of the way there, but we're still short of our goal, right? And we're still short of that goal, about $285,000 of things we will go into it. Right, so how do we get to our goal range? Now this is where that long portion. No, go ahead. Okay.
387
A year per property that we could ask for.
How many years?
For 1 year. It was what we were looking at. Yep.
One time.
Yep, it's a one-time thing. Yep. We would do that towards the 489 properties that we have on site.
How many we have right now?
489. There's 489 voting units, and that includes single-family homes and so it's 489 taxable or properties we can get money from, and that gets us to that 189.7. Yeah.
Will that reduce after, if the money is gathered and that's paid off? Then will our HOA fees monthly go down?
It's like 2%. We're gonna do that. Stand by.
Projects when I go over private previous meetings, but who's the projected expense for if we were to go proceed with the litigation?
We're litigation, at the current, well, where the next section on time, we were looking at about 180,000 was spent. And we still were very brief, there still hadn't been any discovery, so we still had to go through the water, still had to go through the documents, and all that kind of stuff. So if we were at 180 during the very beginning stages, that was why we signed it.
The previous lawyer, the previous lawyer, Greg Grossman, that was doing the litigation, he say about 500,000 over. That's at the middle of the case. Then more than that, it could be 800,000, and that was a gamble. So.
Yeah, follow up to that, I'm trying to organize here.
My question is, when we pay $387 $96 for property every year, will our HOA fees will be reduced by $100?
2 pages ahead. Guys, your minds are going to just the equipment I can see. We'll get, let me run some more numbers and we'll get to that one. Bear with me, we'll get to that.
And look, that's the question. But that's not the other issue, besides the money that we will be invested into litigation. The problem, the biggest problem I have is that it was a risky thing in the sense that if we lose, we would be liable for the attorney expenses of the sole broadband. And that could take us into the millions and actually bankrupt the HOA. And I just felt that that was just too risky of a chance when it was too early in the case. And I figured if we go this route and people are led to, because the homeowners can 75% say, you know what, let's just go to litigation, then, we can still pursue that if that is the case. But now I think this is the better option, you understand? That we try to do, but the cost is basically unpredictable.
Did you think about it that once we pay the fee off and the inspector say, oh, gee, they used to pay $95, now $59, let me push it up into the top.
No, but we have a contract to 29.
So inspector, we don't have.
Yes, we should.
We would assume the current contract. So we would take over the contract that's currently standing with a third party. So she would sign, potentially sign the rights away.
We're buying the contract. We're buying the contract.
Oh, that's the end of the question. We forgot.
We have a special effect applies to each owner, when we have an issue with the streets, right, with the reward, right? And then we have, that's the DDD thing, and it's still a special effect that applies to each homeowner. I just want to make sure that we're not, as a go forward, we're not going to be heading in this direction every time something comes up. Those, if we're not properly budgeted, right? But to me, we're talking about this gap in January. Was this factored into the budget going forward? We just approved, right? Was that factored?
Good question. So at the time the budget was approved for 2023, none of this had been talked about. Right, so we hadn't even gotten to the 2020 where we were able to come to the table with the third party and come to any agreement. Honestly, I think we were a little surprised at that table that there was something there for us. We just wanted to extend that in across the table and say, hey, there's a new word that's going to take it over. We have a little bit different philosophy. Let's talk and see what happens. And I think That was just things that was, like, they're all a little taken back and said, okay, I mean, it seems like a good idea. We'll talk a little bit more slides about like applying and trying to plan for the future. So that we don't get in the situation again where every time something comes up, we're coming to you with, hey, you know, like that child that goes on $20 for him, right? We don't want to be that.
Right, but can't, because people can't afford it,
Right,
right? Because we're
right.
getting direction for, for every time something happens, we're getting the assessment, right?
Right.
And it's factoring, right? So I guess we need to figure out what's gonna be done in the future to prevent us from getting that, policy, transferred over to each homeowner.
Right, so, when you look at this, right, so we take a look at the money. Right, and then we go back to it, that money's for a given amount of time, but when we go out, we say it's for X number of months. To be my money. When you look at the situation that we're in a savings of, I think, for the next 5 years, if nothing changes in the assessment, but especially if we take the special assessment of 5 decades, and we go back to the current assessment as we say today, we just gained almost $1.2 million on that.
Right, so that topic right there, you mentioned also that this was gonna be a loan from the homeowners, or how is, if it's, that's gonna be given back to what we.
You're coming to like
We'll explain that at the end.
Yeah, we'll give you that.
If the law is, we only get to 1 million on,
Right.
where are we getting the other
That's,
money?
that's
me.
That's. We don't really have a goal. There's nothing that says we don't save from the saving capital. So if we don't make that goal, now we look at returning that. That we put in, right? Because you don't pay forward, but we didn't make a goal. They were $100,000 short, we can't make that goal. We continue paying as we are a contract continues to start parking, and then we look at where's the big fund, and there's multiple ways.
So you only have 1 year to pay it off, and
Yes.
if you had to pay it off in 1 year, then.
Yeah, that would be agreement. So when the settlement with the third party, that was for that I went with 475. It's early in 2024 that she wanted that money, so we would have to kind of backtrack that to be able to for the funds and over.
But as soon as we are not going to make it. We are not going to make.
Yeah, but he does. I remember the numbers. That's my idea.
This is just representing the first step that the board has been asked to do.
Yeah.
Like, if we wanted to do this, we could do this without homeowner approval, because the document allows it. But like you were saying, it's not enough. So we have other plans to get there.
Right, no, and that's.
Well, too much not coming up.
I'm trying to walk you through all the logic so that you can get the same conclusion hopefully we get, or you get to a different conclusion. In the back, I'm sorry.
You know, so, say 75% of homes. Is that one or two? Doesn't matter.
Every piece of drawing has one
Vote for us.
so it's one vote per house. So they were in your page, you're voting on the- That's your household, we actually, you guys, but, yeah. You just gotta go first. Yeah, all right, so I think we're ready to move forward, right? So we've all agreed, we've got the quite clear, based on what we can do as a board with our documents, we're not gonna meet the goal that we're going to get to. So we look at the continued kind of numbers that we go through. So just to kind of carry stuff over again, which I think this is what we've gotten to. There's our net. Look at that, the 285 area to be able to continue our money. So now that we're able to close out 2023, we have 2023's financial, 22, sorry. Too many numbers and too many things going on. 2022 financials. We have some surplus money that was in our operating fund. This is due to some over budget things that you plan for more and hope not use. There was some contract negotiations that were redone. It saved us some money. So when we're looking at conserving, this is, again, this is not every dollar. We've calculated for money staying in our account, leading our accounts.
You can just tell them the numbers.
Yeah, I just don't want to confuse people with numbers. Yeah, I'm just trying to say that in this case, we've taken some contingencies of $150,000, pull it out and said, we need this to potentially operate, if you want to look at that, right? So we're giving the rest of that number. We're at about 168.5 is some surplus money we potentially put from. I conservatively for our. Right, so again, if we go to the back, we get down to 116,709.17. So we're incrementally closer, right, to our goal. Then when you look at the increase that we just did for 23 assessment, which will take place in April, that increase of assessment, which was 1337 for the overall operating budget, only was the additional piece to cover your reserves through your roof. But in terms of everybody across the board, because this cable piece would affect everybody in the community, everybody's funds. We would apply that 1337 we had put in the budget for to be fiscally responsible and get like next how we prevent ourselves from that was our way of giving us the breathing room and accounts for some of that inflation. And so we were hoping to take some of those funds and start being able to redirect them to that really big fund. You want to call it that? We're looking at taking that money and could we potentially put off that for a year and redirect that fund to help again try to keep that goal there we're successful. Yeah.
Surplus, which fund does it come from?
The surplus, which fund?
Yeah. which-
Already the operating.
What's the operating?
So essentially, when you look at our balance sheet, which we will call it for people, you have a budget that looks for operations and that's the day-to-day stuff. So that's the budget of money that we pay out landscaping for water, for irrigation, electricity costs, management fees, all of that like kind of day-to-day stuff is your operating fund.
So basically, the part that the house is paying is operating fund. The amount that the house is paying is operating fund. The townhomes pay the difference, which applies only to townhomes for their roofs, their exteriors, and that is the difference in the fee between the townhomes and the house. But operating fund is we used to be 161, 63, I got the amount. So that money goes for the operating fund. So what he's saying is the surplus comes from 2022 that things were either not done or money was saved from decreasing certain costs. But there's always a cushion in that operating fund of because right, something happens and people can't pay, the HOA has to have a little bit of a cushion to have to survive. So this extra money he's talking about is above that.
So this is not tapping into the reserves.
No, we can't touch the research. The research are earmarked specifically for certain things, and we cannot touch the research. Yeah.
That was making sure.
Yeah, the impact is, you get that tax return, right? You have that money sitting in your pocket, or maybe you get to do a side job, right? And get your beer money. This is just a lot of money actually that's going into it. But we still have that savings account for when something.
So everything we're talking about, if approved, will not affect in any way financially the town will roofs being cleaned in 2020, in the next few months.
No,
No, it has nothing to do with.
Nothing to do with that.
no.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you use all that money, then how you gonna replace it?
You gotta, we gotta go, all the way to go, we're like 2.5.
I talked
But
to
I processed it pretty fast. I don't know, good question. This is a lady starting, we're trying to make sure that everybody's stays level.
Okay, so, get on that for 2 seconds, let me try to speed this up, right? So, first, we redirect that 1337, which is the basic operating cost of the position, right? So we go through there. So that gets us down to 64,405.73 remaining in our target. So with that, what we would do is we would look through all the math, and the math would be able to make up the difference. Right, so when you look at the difference, you go through the math, it says with that remaining, there's 489 properties. That would be an additional increase. So on top of what we would do, that we've already done, we've already redirected that money up here to 1333. Where would we be looking for that loan, if we're ever to call it that, of 131.71 per property per year. Right, so that year term, that's what we're looking for. And actually, we actually said we don't need a year based on that number. We only need 8 months. There's only 8 months left in the year, right? So that's getting us down to that 1647 additional per month. That's what we're getting. Why do you look at me? Did I lose you or am I? Okay. Okay.
It's some of my.
Okay. I didn't know if I was a lot or if it- yeah. I don't know if it was a lot.
I just want to check.
You know, please.
With all respect.
In addition to the $38 a month,
And
I can't see.
1647.
Not $50. But
The 32 is what we can impose without. Right, so that brings our total amount that we'll be asking for. Where's the math? You were my math guy.
55 machines, right, total amount.
So 55 machines, but here's the key behind that. To get to that number, we need 75% of our homeowners to vote and say, yes, I'm willing to give you that loan of 131.71 to remain 8 months a year to get us what we want.
What you're trying to say is we're gonna need the 75% in order to overcome that 1647 a month. Because the board has no control of collecting that money based on our documents, you understand? So we would need that 75% buy-in to be able to overcome that last amount that we. At least 5 years.
Everything summed up was 570 something a year. 1 year.
1 year.
One year would be function.
It's 585.60, it's 48.80 a month, but it's 585.60 a year per house. 48.80 a month, right?
So we get both. We can ask them to, we need to make it to 50, whatever you just said, 53.
It's 48.80.
48, so 48, right? We get to 32, we need you to help us get to 48 to get to the goal of the. Okay. Yours.
The homeowners that don't have to. It was a dish. When you would go for your next.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Well, I just want to get this. You still pay us money. To have the fish, I'm sorry. You still pay me.
You think it's okay? It's still part of it, yeah. So if you have a dish or you've gone from another provider, that money is still being collected. You can part of the tail for that.
You're not going to contribute to the fish.
Yeah, it's all, there's no, because I have a dish on the intent. It's all being collected, goes for everyone equally across the intent.
Thank you for your donation.
Can I ask you mentioned that
How much is the reserve? It's off the top of my head, I was trying to look looking up to.
So
You guys
the
know,
operating account is not, the operating account is not necessary. The town, for the town,
Oh, that's it.
only the town is like a hundred. No, right now, no, we should, I agree 100% with you, but right now, that's not what we were handing down. There's no reserves of the operating account. Because we don't have any infrastructure, right? So that's why they're gonna create it, but we're finding out details little by little that I'm not gonna share now because I don't have confirmation of it. But that makes me kind of think that we should have had reserve. But that was for another discussion.
Another question. So, before we, so you're not gonna move forward with this contract until you get the player, the whole 75?
Correct.
right, it's all, the way we broke it down was to kind of look at it in two lenses. What we could do without the community involvement, and to show you we can't get to the goal without your involvement. So we continued the stream of numbers to show you the difference, and it would be one vote, right? So we would have to ask you for the full sum and then 75%, not home.
So all of these races on top of the ones starting, right?
Correct. Well, part of the acreage stuff is there, right? So it's 4,000 is the kind of configuration.
Right, so that,
This sum that we're having, the homeowners are having to come out of pocket and we basically loan the HOA, right?
yeah,
Is this something that's coming from the older, HOA?
what?
No, that's not what you're saying. No,
I know you guys are.
it's good.
And I know. I know that.
Right, so it's,
So there's no such thing as an old HOA. The HOA is the HOA. I mean, people run it all over. Everything that they have is what we're managing now. So there's no other money than what you're seeing there. And the reason why we're saying is, well, I'm gonna explain at the end how we plan to give this money back to the homeowner. Okay?
That's what I'm trying to talk about, did you want to know?
is the money like,
Or any of the money that they show in the repay, back to one.
No. No, unfortunately, no.
no, I wish, that would be the case.
Also, substantially, they do.
That was-
Also, substantially, they is the game, our game. Like, what are we gaining?
Well, that game, almost $1.3 million savings of 35.
No.
So that's, so what we're saying is, by allowing us that, we can save and get ourselves out from, remember that pie chart in the back of the beginning? We are gonna like lose almost 50 or over 50% of our budget. We can take and float that down, and now those funds can be redirected, put towards other things, and that's what Mario's. Where we keep that, we don't pay that. That's where it's safety. That's a that almost more than $3 billion. Go towards our things. That's what.
That it affects our actual fees every month. If we put that in, or take a loan.
Right, so that is, we've done was the 49,
48, yeah, 49.
48,
Right around that.
each increase for the remainder, 2023. 2023, so by December, we'll give you December to pay us the loan. So we're not asking you to cut us a check for the full sum of it. Right? We understand.
Yeah.
There's financing. So we're giving you time over, and really, I think the two is trying to raise the money. When it comes to 2024, we hope to have the money paid and have start looking at how to move it.
So the money you are taking from us, if you collect that one, but fees will go down next year or what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because with that, is that,
I'm good with numbers on the, there,
is there anything else? I'm gonna say,
no, I'm done.
I'm gonna give you I'm a macro guy, he's a data guy. I'm more of a macro guy. I just look at the big picture and basically, I'm not gonna stand here and lie to you. I mean, I just told everybody that this year is gonna be the toughest year for our HOA. If we want to get what we want to get, it's gonna take more money to get there. The good news is that we'll be able to give that money back one way or another. I can't tell you exactly numbers right now, how you're gonna get it back, but I'm gonna tell you that the savings on all this is substantial, and there's no reason why the HOA should not be able to give it back. So just by meeting this 475,000 and buying that contract, we get instantaneously next year $200,000 discount on our cable bill.
You guys give us
Excuse me, one at a time.
unless we have some number, it is very hard. You have to give us some number that how much it will be reduced next year.
I'm gonna give you a general reason how we're thinking, but I just don't want you to hold me to the number because it might not be precise. Go ahead.
So you've gotten a rough estimate already from Spectrum of what it would cost.
We know, we have a good number. We got a hard number on that. It's about 380, right? 385 right now? The cable actually 322. That's what, this is what VSO broadband is paying Spectrum. So since we're buying the contract, next year, that's what we're gonna pay with whatever increase they decide to do. And from what we hear from VSO broadband is that it's usually a 1 to 4% increase per year, but they're saying that they hadn't had an increase in about 4 years, 5 years. So it's just to let you know that they're saying that Spectrum is not very diligent about doing that yearly increase. But either way, that increase would have applied to us staying with VSO broadband, because it's on their contract too, so they have the right to keep raising it as well. So basically, what we're talking here, folks, is $475,000 on 489 houses, which is slightly under $1,000, right? That's what we're talking about. We can only get $387 out of that, by making a motion with the board. So what we want to do is, right, if we don't do anything, we just keep paying VSO broadband and we write this contract out and call it a day. But I think that that extra money can go to so many other things that our community needs, that it's worth taking this chance, right? Now, there's a possibility that we could do it with less, but we don't know where we're gonna be at the end of this year, so I don't wanna speculate. So we wanna give you the worst case scenario. This is what we need, right? That being said, when we get this money from you, right, it's $585 for the year. We're gonna make it a special assessment, so it's not like your monthly fee is gonna go up. It's gonna be a special assessment that you'll have till the end of the year to pay it. You understand? So some of us, I know that 585, we could just pay it, because we have it, right? Others may not be budgeted for that. So they may need 3-4 months to come up with it. Some of them might need 7 months to come up with it. But the bottom line is you could pay this at any time before the end of the year. Okay? That's the way this is gonna be structured if it works. Now, the question is, if 75% will buy in, so we can be guaranteed to collect the money by the end of the year, right? That is the coup d'etat of this deal, is that everyone buys in, everyone says we want to save on cable, and we're done with it after this year, so I'm gonna pay my $585, right? Like this, if that doesn't happen, which I think a lot of you guys asked, what if we can only collect the 3233 and we're short at 1647? Well, there's a very good possibility that we're gonna save money this year also. So there's a very good possibility that the HOA may be able to cover that difference, but it's not guaranteed. And we don't want to be in that situation in December where we have to pay in 30 days and we don't have the money, when it's compared to the global picture, the amount of money is so small that we're gonna let this deal go. You understand? And that's what I want people to understand, that if 75% of us get together and pay that little extra, then we'll be able to guarantee that we're gonna get where we're going. So let's say everyone buys in, we have our money, we pay Spectrum off, next year, we have control of the contract. Our cable bill goes from almost 50 grand we pay per month now, it's gonna go down to what, 30 or something? Or yeah, something like 30 or 20 something. So now, right, we're still collecting your regular assessments, right? So we could do a couple of things. And this is something that the board has to address at some point next year. See where our expenses are, because things are going up too. This is why we raised the 1337 to begin with. It wasn't because we were planning to do this, like some people think or anything like that. It's because the cost of living is going up and our budget is tight. It's so tight that we were afraid that, you know, if fuel went up, if Blade Runners came up to us and said, well, you're gonna pay 20 grand more this year, we might not be able to cover. And that's why I said, you know, let's just put that little extra there to have a little cushion just in case something happens. And look, this winds up falling on our lap. Now we were able to utilize that money for this, because we know that next year, the savings is gonna be substantial, that we don't have to worry about being tight anymore, right? So now, oh, go ahead, Dave, sorry.
I understand the numbers, I understand where the money is coming from, but I've been to some of these meetings, and I've been online. I don't see 75% of our homeowners attending. So my question is, how are we getting there?
Look, great. I like it. I like it. So I agree with you 100% that there's a very small chance that 75% of the body, very small. But I'm going to tell you one thing, that our crew and hopefully some homeowners are going to take to the streets, just that we were successful at getting 51% for the recall to try to get that other 25%. Because we know we have established relationships out there, and even though people don't come here because they work, because they sleep in the day, and work at night, and all that, everybody has a different life. I know that if we start knocking on doors, if we do our job as homeowners, talk to our neighbors and all that, the money will come and the vote will come. I was one of the people that were not optimistic about the recall. I mean, we started it and we got a couple of doors slammed in our faces, and I was like, there's no way this is gonna happen. It can happen. Because as the momentum of everyone talking about it and people understanding, and you give time, we had the opportunity to do this buyout this year for probably less money. But I don't want to be in that position because, like you said, I need time to get everybody together. I need time to get the word out. And if we would have went into this deal and say, well, we'll get the money in 3 months, we would have failed. And that's why I said I'd rather get a year out of it, so that, you know, if we fail, at least we know that the homeowners are not interested. You understand? They're okay with paying $550,000 to $600,000 for cable. So this is where the essence of the 1 year comes. And I know the lady over there asked that why a year, and a year came because that's what the board thought was reasonable time to try to get the word out and get the best response to our requests. The 1 year? Yes, the 1 year came from the board.
So we possibly they back to find it at extension.
I'm sure, because they don't want to let us go.
Okay.
We can do that, but I assure you that it's not going to be 475. And you got to remember that we're paying X amount of dollars every month. So, I mean, I was pretty upset because I wanted to do it like right at December 31st and not have to pay them January. And because I asked for December 31st, they said, well, we'll give you 10 extra days to pay. And that turned out that now they want to charge us also for January. So we lost another month, another 50 grand. So this is how it works.
If it's spread out.
If they did it for 475, but they're not. These people want money, and if we ask them for more time, the number is going to get large. 1 year. Ideally,
Right, I get the time frame for when you want it.
so after this town hall, our goal is to find out how we can set up an electronic voting system, okay? So that we can get to 75%. Because we believe that through electronic voting, we'll be able to get more people to vote. Because I think people are finding cumbersome to have to come here and cast a vote. So, and it'll be a Florida state approved election vendor. It's not gonna be us handling the ballot or anything of that nature.
And the people that percentage
Out.
outside of the country.
They can also vote.
They can all vote, exactly. Exactly. People that are overseas can all.
So I.
And then the time frame. Yeah.
So that's a good question. I can't give you an exact one. Ideally, if I could set up electronic voting within the next 3 to 4 weeks, I would say in 3 months we'll be voting. That'll give us time to spread the word.
But like eventually it's a bit, because it's saying we're gonna pick the streets, we're gonna walk. For me, that's not like finding a way of thinking people are going to respond. So I'm wondering, what is your other plan of how to notify people originally? And then, like your timeframes, let's say they get this voting system up in 4 weeks. Well, at what timeframe do we have to vote? Like, does everybody need to vote? Your last go date for voting would be like June?
Oh, no, with electronic voting, it doesn't work that way. It's 3 days. That's it. That's the maximum.
Take the vote until a certain date, like when is the last time frame that you think you can take this vote, give them 3 days, we're gonna say it's gonna be June 7th, whatever. That gives people 6 to 2 months to pay the additional investment. I'm just pretty sure I would like.
And I'm paying you June's time, which is bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's
So our goal is to get it done as soon as possible. I just don't know, the logistics of how long it's gonna take to set it up. Like,
and here's,
Correct.
right,
Not to connect to the okay.
right.
yeah, and remember what I said too, that if the HOA is able to save money, right? If the HOA is able to save money in 2023, we might have a difference that would be able to give people more time that need the time.
But here's the idea, right? We're moving so quickly. Tomorrow morning, we're going to Artemis and start talking deals. But we're starting, what does it take? How do we get this number? How do we get this ball rolling?
And since they lies, we could go.
And you never know. There might be a millionaire living in here who says, here's your 475, pay me in 3 years. And then we're talking about it.
I think that what.
Let the gentleman talk. He's ready.
Well, my question is, you talk so much how I hear what you're doing the money, but I hear your question.
So I know we talked about this, I know we brought it up, one of the women that left, she tried to ask a question. You talked about it a little bit, Mary, but I think there's a better chance of getting people to vote for this. They know exactly the number financially they're going to save in 2024.
And we're gonna use it.
You're gonna say, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, $35 a month in your HOA. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's $35, whatever.
What's the key?
Well, listen, remember though, we have 5 years of that cable contract left at the end of this year.
I know that, but what I'm trying to say to you is, there's a lot of people, right, that like to see black and white. I'm one of them. This is what it's gonna cost me, $1,000 to pay in, whether I can, however I do it. All right, and then this is what I'm gonna gain next year. Or is the HOA gonna come back to us and say, you know what, for everyone buying into this, we will guarantee you for the next 3 years that the HOA fees will not go up more than 5% or 4% a year. I will guarantee that right.
I would like to say yes, but tomorrow we all skyrocket. So let me try to give you a number. Give you the ballpark number. How much are we saving per year if we are successful? Was 2,
At least start by here.
no, per year.
For a year.
Three twenty. So $322,000, right, is what the HOA saved.
Give and take,
489 homes, right in the community. Big fat fingers. $658.40 per unit is saved by buying this contract out. How is it applied is the question mark.
I think.
I think-
I
think
we catch that.
I get what you guys are saying, but you gotta understand, we're at the infancy of this plan. And that number will be given to you. Now, I'm gonna go as far as telling you that I assure you that there will be no increase in HOA fees for the whole 5 years that are left of that contract if we're successful in doing this. I guarantee you that. Now, the question is, how am I gonna give you back the 585? That's your question too,
You
right?
know what, I think for some of us, and I can't talk for everybody, if the HOA board members want to sign a contract saying that they guarantee for 5 years, no increase, the HOA think it's realistic.
Because that,
That's the way. The way increase that we just had,
Yeah.
even though a lot of people were against it, if you look at how long we haven't had an increase and the way the cost of living is going up, it was far overdue. And it should have been done several years ago.
And we had it back in 2016, so.
Have a great night.
Let's look at it.
yeah, there's different ways of doing this. You either don't increase, fees for the remaining years, or you decrease fees for a certain amount of years to give you that money back. I mean, however you want to look at it. Any of that is doable. I just don't, all I know is we have 5 years to give $585 plus back. I think that the HOA should be able to do that when they're saving $200,000 a year, $1.2 million. 475 shouldn't be that hard to pay back.
And this, all I'm trying to say is that if people look at black and white and they see that,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier for people to understand it.
But responsibly.
I like the good idea. We'll have to talk it over at the board meeting. But I think your idea, I do like that the board can commit to not raising the assessment for a certain amount of time if people vote.
Yep.
I think it's a great plan. I didn't even think about that.
Let me ask Cory. You came up a couple minutes ago. You said so many dollars per year. How much is that per month? Divided by 12. How much is that?
It's about $55. No, it's more.
From.
The savings is more than what we paid in 1 year.
Per month, it's 54.87.
Yeah, great, like, it's,
Yeah.
And those numbers are a little bit more because.
Yeah. Roughly,
The basic idea is 50 some odd dollars. Potentially, I'm not saying this is what you would do, but potentially, it could be as simple as saying, hey, your assessment is now $125 a month instead of 170.
That is.
I mean, I don't know how that's going to work out. If you can bank on that, it's a thing.
That I thought about, but I just think right now that's a little overzealous. We don't know where the cost of everything is.
I understand the zealous system. What I'm saying is, perspective, a lot of people, you look at a monthly budget.
Yeah.
And I've got one at home, I've got a young man that took over the budgeting in my household when my wife passed away. And by golly, when I walk into him and say, I want to pay $588, he's gonna look at me and go, or my dead body. And so I've got to be able to say, hey, this will do something. This is what it will do. And yeah, make your case. What I want to do is say, hey, there's a potential, it would affect that payment. Now, we may still end up paying $170. There's going to be $55 in there. They can do other things with it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
but like in each one, what I'm thinking also, if we continue to see, we're gonna get this, if we go, the HOA will go up, because we're not gonna have the money to pay that contract.
Correct. With every year, 557 is gonna go up.
600, 6 something.
And we would have to
We're
have
gonna
a
have
jump
the money
every
to
year.
pay. So then people is gonna be budgeted for more money monthly.
What's that? I will present that thing.
Go ahead, Mark.
They look at a monthly budget and say, potentially, this could even be lower, or we may get more things for that. We may get the happy parade and the nice things and the extra flowers and whatever they
Yeah.
have, in my opinion. But you would have potential.
Mhm.
You're right. Well, the best thing now to get.
Interestingly, I heard when I first started my first job, and it always says take money to make money. And this is the position that this HOA is in right now. We've been paying, and unfortunately, if we want to stop bleeding money, we're gonna have to pay a little bit more this year to save the loan. That's basically the concept. Then,
Not opposed to keeping the separate so that you can build that reserve for everyone.
But aside from that, the presentation today was, I don't know, like the numbers of me, it makes sense. I don't know how it works. And if it's presented, going to try and tell the rest of the homeowners what we're trying to do. Like,
We're gonna have to condense all of this.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know how to think this work.
Well, let me point it. I think you should send the spreadsheets out. Like, I was on the phone at first. I was reading all of it and trying to understand everyone, like, okay, I just jotted it out. So, but if now looking at it and hearing everything, if you guys can go back to the origin and really see some things, I understand a lot more now. You're gonna pay now, you're gonna pay later. It doesn't really matter. Just by paying now, you'll hope to get a lot from the future, so.
You say, it's all right. And everything,
We pay now, we pay late.
and everything that we do, HOA wise, at some point, it's gonna wind up in our website, and then people can see it anytime.
I'll work on this, and maybe line together, they kind of run the numbers horizontally.
Yeah.
But this is what this is, and if that'll help, I'll pick finance to do it, that's it.
Just don't go too much into it, because like she said, some people, you're just gonna want to see exactly what you said. And this is what I have to pay, but this is what I'm gonna get back. It's very challenging for you guys to say how you're gonna get back. So there's a lot of things that can happen between now and Friday.
Correct. And remember, you're talking a large number, you're talking a number that currently right now is about 20% of our current budget. And our cable bill right now is more than 50% of our current budget. So you're talking a big number of.
Those words did come up.
Yeah. Well, it was shown here, but yeah, it didn't come out.
But you know what, this is what,
You know, that's part of a selling point, I hate to say it because we are selling, it. As your board, we're selling you an idea that we believe in. And unfortunately, you guys can see the macro picture here, but there's some people that don't see it that way, and they want to know every step of the plan and why you're doing what you're doing. And we do the town hall to kind of lay out every detail so that we give as many people to understand it. But you're right, eventually there has to be some sort of outline or handout that kind of just says, this is what we're doing.
Well, you can build links to it, then click on this part, and it will give you the drill down with all the numbers and all, if they want to get that part into it.
You want to help us set up our system? We all work, also, well, yeah, we all do some sort of thing. And, I tell you, I left work at 5:15, and I'm here at 7. I went home, changed, walked my dog, ate the pasta, and
You wanted to.
sometimes there's calls, and they're like, what should we do about this, what should we do about that? Yeah, we need help. I'll be honest with you, the intern right now is in deep need of volunteers. I want to take this moment to say that. I know there's a lot of people online too. Our committees need help. You understand? And if we want to get to where we want to get in this community, people have to kind of, even if it takes an hour or two of your time to donate, it helps, it goes a long way. Understand? Who right there? Somebody go back. Yes, sir.
Mine one that you guys picked up about.
I'm sorry, what's your max?
It's not the money you provided without getting everybody to school. It's sort of like $30.
Yeah.
And that money, can you use that then to go out like loan?
So that's a good idea also. So I think, I know Des asked this question, I wish she's still here. So she was asking that if we're not going to collect any money until we're sure that we can collect it all, right? That's a difficult thing to do, right? For two reasons, I'm gonna tell you why, right? One, you brought it up, the time frame. If we wait till everybody votes, the time frame is gonna get small, number one. Number two is, the board has the authority to get that 20%, right? We can do that and start now to put that money down, right? If the vote fails, maybe by the end of the year, the board has saved enough money to overcome that anyway, and we can still do it. Rather than say, well, nobody voted, so we're just not doing it. So our goal is to try to give us as many opportunities 3 weeks ago as we possibly can. I don't want to bank on just 75% voting. 75% would be ideal, but I think if we can raise it 20% now and work on getting the 75% vote with the hopes of getting all the money guaranteed is a better plan, because I'm pretty sure that we're gonna trim the cost. I mean, right now, look, our management fees right now are about half of what they used to be. You understand? So, our graph is there's a couple thousand there too, you know, every month. So, so that is another.
No, because
The answer right now, so right now, the way interest rates are, we should be getting better return on our extra money, and we're doing it.
Yeah, it's something, it's something.
The thing that I think is crucial to make homeowners understand, regardless of this is or other people for them, is that they are homeowners. So when they come to do, we're talking about an assessment, they're still not identifying things too. So for someone just to pull it out of the air and say, let's just do this without doing the due diligence, find out why we can, where we can save money. You know, we've got to, look at figures, and we've got to trust them. They are homeowners. And they're going to do work on it.
With that being said, I'll admit, so those things, I think about this constantly. I do. How do we, how do we create it? How do we, how do we not ask our homeowners? And, when we start talking about how do we apply this in return? If you remember back a couple of months ago, when we started talking about lawn care and snack service, and we had a discussion saying, well, our kids were coming back at $500,000. Are there the same things? There's a work on exactly there, getting to that goal. So now there may be something that we can.
Yeah.
But there's other opportunities. So that's another way to take that. And I would love to say, I think all of us would love to say, increases or maybe even a decrease, right? But there's just so many variables for us to stay and commit to that whole thing.
The crowdfunding is another idea. You know what I'm saying? If we have people, I tell you, there's a lot of investment here. There's a lot of investors that have invested in my street alone. There's like at least 7, 8 houses that are all investors. Airbnb and rental.
But there's also one guy that owns like what, 15 houses?
I don't know about that. Let's about 5.
5.
So you know what I'm saying? Crowdfunding, and people have it like that, want to invest in our community, then we can, pay, I'm sure a reasonable interest back in the next couple of years and not have to make it from the home. I mean, I'm looking for all kinds of ideas. I just think that I'm a strong believer that this is the best decision for our HOA for the short term, so that we can have long-term success financially.
And then the main thing is that we're gonna have the control of the spectrum. So the HOA, all of us have the decision of what we can do. If we wanna keep it after the contract ends or change the infrastructure.
Or you want to change the program.
Correct.
I know a lot of people would do that, just for broadband in December. Some people lost some challenges. And we don't have control over that right now. That was people broadband doing. They got us what they wanted us. You understand? Maybe, with this extra thing, you might want 1 gig instead of 400 megabytes or something.
Correct.
Come on, the internet can be that.
Because TV's going down, the cable price is gonna go, the internet price is gonna go up.
Exactly. And, getting rid of the bulk cable is a bad idea. It's in our documents, and, it's a great deal. We looked at the pricing of our services if we were to go on our phone.
Yeah.
It's about $150.
Exactly. You should use that as an example.
People complain about the expense of the town. When we raised the expenses of the town, that was the first thing, like, a lot of homeowners said, well, window blades need $100 a month, but they got way more stuff than we do. That's not true. If you don't account for window blades, $100 should master it. But then you gotta pay your town fees on it, which is another $150, and they don't have cable, or internet, some of them, you know? But, you know, it is what it is. We have what we have. This community was supposed to be over 700 houses. That's why it was built the way it did, because the cost would be less per house. Unfortunately, with the market crashing in 06, they never materialized to build the entire build out, and they only got to 489.
Oh,
They used to own, and some of the land.
I like it.
But like everything changed, brings a lot of conflict, people are gonna complain, they're gonna say this, but the reality is that if we make it through this, people are gonna appreciate it later on when they realize that we can get back. Okay?
You can build me a bed.
That's part of what we're thinking of doing. We want to reach out to the community that built that back there, right? Because I feel it's only fair that we bear the cost together.
I mean, honestly, nice, my perspective to it, but I've been disrespected and cussed out by all the little people that like to ride through my yard.
What about a nice iron fence we can still see the list? Yeah.
That'd be great. I would like
And when I brought my home, the son-in-law of Ray, we talked about the iron unit, and he said, oh, yes, and he showed me where it was. Ray, it was in the, you know, within the lawn, it was laid out. We're putting on a concrete divider here from laying iron. That never happened. Yeah, that's the thing.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
So, anything else?
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Before you drop the lawsuit, do you review the documents, the lawsuit that was submitted by the previous board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was the decision on continuing besides the,
Because,
So it was the attorney, Greg Grossman. There was two issues. I'm gonna talk about it now, just water under the bridge. So the first thing is that the previous board should have never brought litigation that would exceed the amount of money that was supposed to be invested in that litigation without the 75% buy-in of the owners. And the previous board took that upon themselves to just go ahead and put us into a lawsuit without our consent. So remember that the people you sued are the people that created our documents, and they know what our documents say. And believe it or not, they're still going after your attorney, the attorney we had. They're going after them because they feel they violated their lawyer responsibility to our client, because they put us into a lawsuit without following the rules that the HOA had in place. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when we came into this, we had no knowledge of none of that. So our goal was, we met with the attorney and we said, okay, what are we looking at here? Okay, how much have we spent? We spent about ourselves between $70,000 and $80,000 already, just in negotiating and trying to get the case open and doing motions and posturing. Nothing got done during that time, but we spent $80,000. On top of that, I said, okay, so what are we looking at? Where are we headed here? Well, we haven't even started yet. So the opposing lawyers decided to file a dismissal. They wanted to get the case dismissed because they said that we didn't have ground for the lawsuit. That's when we started saying, okay, well, let's talk with them to see how we can get out of this mess without having to pay any more money. When we reached out to them, they said, okay, give us $100,000 that we spend already in our lawyer fees and we can close the case. I was like, really, 100,000? And they said, all right, not 100, give us 50 then. You know, this was kind of a game, right? So I was like, no, that's too much. I was like, you know, but I skipped a part. Before the dismissal case went to court, the day or two before, we made them an offer to buy them out for almost $300,000 at that time. And they said no, that was not acceptable. But because they lost the dismissal and now they were ready to go into litigation, now is when they granted us the ability to come to the table and negotiate. And I'm going to tell you the other part of it. These attorneys have been in town for more than 30 years. Okay, they know everybody here. Okay, and I'll go as far as say they know every judge in town. But that being said, they created our documents, and where was I going with this? Just my thought.
They used the home,
The what?
they used the homeowner.
Oh, that was the other thing that we're doing. They were going around and finding homeowners to sue the HOA for litigating against them.
For the 70.
And homeowners were filing the paperwork. Okay, so these are all things that were going on behind closed doors that no one really knows because with legal stuff, you kind of keep things under the rug until it's definite. So these were things that were happening. So when we got the opportunity to go to the table, we went to the table. And the first thing they want is, okay, we're gonna give you more services, we're gonna give you this, now you're not gonna pay 85, you're gonna pay 100. You're gonna this. They want to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And I said, no, we're not here to dig a deeper hole. We're here to get out of this mess. I said, we want to make the $100,000 you want go away. And we want the contract to go away because that's why this was started to begin with. We went through the whole history of how they got here, how much they invested, how much we paid them today, how much they recovered. So on a $250,000 investment, they recovered millions here in the last 20 years. And I said, your investment has been paid and paid and paid. And I said, so we need a number. Then I gave them another number, a little higher than the 300. I said 350. That's my max. So then they started saying, oh, I don't think that's going to work. But they had the little conferences. And then they came back and they were honest and said, you know what? We're not that far away. So they said, and then they gave us the number and they wouldn't budge. We tried to push them and push them and push them. And they wouldn't budge. That was their number. And then we did the numbers and we realized that it is still a substantial savings. And it makes the litigation go away. It makes the $100,000 that they wanted for their litigation expenses go away. To us, we're already saving. And if we don't do this, we have to continue with the contract. So, you know.
Did that answer?
Was that what you were asking?
But yes, so why that information is not in the records of the HOA?
Which information?
That information about.
It is, the settlement agreement is there, and the part of the settlement agreement is the dropping of the lawsuit. And that's one thing, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I have to find out, I don't recall receiving in my hand yet, the dismissal with prejudice that was supposed to be filed after we signed that. So I think that, I don't know if it's filed yet, but it should be filed sometime soon. What that means is basically that we agreed to this deal, and we're not gonna sue them again over the same problem if we don't live up to this contract.
And that is handling the lawyer that was handling the lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's not.
We didn't take any cases from the lawyer that had the cases with the old HOA because it is more costly to do that. So we're letting that lawyer, he's already done most of the work and he understands what's happening. We're letting him finish everything.
So I'm assuming that you guys met with the cable person, the attorney, you know.
That's right.
You remember when was that?
It was in November sometime, right? Like November 8th. I have to look it up.
It's in the settlement agreement too, because.
The date the settlement agreement was drafted.
Yeah, on the website is on the settlement agreement.
So if these contracts expected to see, you get out of this mess and you pay everything to her, how much it will be any contract that the HOA does directly with the spectrum?
So we will be inheriting the contract that VSO Broadband has right now. So basically, this buyout will give us VSO Broadband. You understand? Basically, we would have everything VSO Broadband has right now.
So we're gonna
We'll
get.
become the HOA.
Gonna get this amount.
And they do have an assignability clause on their contract.
So the only problem is that the HOA has a loss according to the documents
Excuse me.
of $30,000 right now. The collecting balance is of $90,000, so according to records of the HOA.
Which lawsuit of $30,000 you're talking
No,
about?
no, I'm talking about the loss of the HOA right now, that the HOA is underwater by $30,000. That's what it says on the document.
No, what you're saying is that there's $30,000 outstanding in people paying their assessment.
They're not collecting.
That's $90,000.
Okay, but you have to be clear with those numbers because a lot of those numbers that he's talking about is money that's already been paid from the HOA fund. Because about 90% of the money is all lawyer fees that the HOA is already out on because they sued everybody during those years. But the HOA has already paid that, so that's money that has to come back to the HOA that is not accounted here. This is not part of that accounting.
There's $90,000 on outstanding collection matters. People that they haven't paid their assessment since you guys took over.
Everybody's free to review the document, and the first 10 people on that line owe about half of that money, and most of those are legal fees. They're not HOA affected.
When you compare what you owe.
This is done just strictly based on the HOA. It's the collections document. He says where it says who's in debt. You know, that document is very long, has a lot of people on there, but it's like the last 2 pages, everybody owes like 30 cents, $10, $5. The bulk of it, the first 20 people on that list owe the majority of the money.
They paid it?
It's being collected. So right now, the new lawyer has anybody that owes more than $500, he's dealing with that and trying to collect it.
Listen, can I just, I know
Sure.
it's the right meeting for this, but can I want to voice my opinion on that. If some, and I feel bad for anyone who can't afford certain things, times are tough. But if people can't afford their HOA fees, then they probably should not sell their house. You know, it's.
You know, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you everything, Jack, but the reality is that we don't live in a poor neighborhood, okay? People can pay their assessments here. The problem here is that we have a lot of strong-willed people, and people don't like injustice. And some people are willingly not wanting to pay because they feel they've been done wrong. And this is what we're trying to iron out right now, because some people have been done wrong. And some people, you know, out of that $90,000 this gentleman's talking about, the HOA will lose some of that money that will not recover because some people have been done wrong.
What can I use the money towards this? When you collect?
If it's collected, sure, this is what I'm saying, that there will, I believe that at the end of 2023, we would have more numbers on our side here, but that's speculating. We don't want to speculate.
You say that, are you saying, forget about the HOA fees. You're saying violations?
Violations, late fees, lawyer fees, assessment, penalties, all kinds of stuff they added to there.
But he said, don't know, some of them are not guilty of the issue that they have.
How fairness.
Done wrong?
I need the HOA.
So, for example,
Someone gets a notice to, and I know you've got a letter to wash their roof, and they don't, and then they get a second notice, then they get violations.
but that's not what was happening. That's not what was happening. The majority of the things that I'm talking about are people that, let's say for whatever reason, like, I was guilty of this back in 2018, okay? I was paying my assessments on auto pay, and somehow the HOA decided to change banks. Maybe I missed the communication, I don't know, it's partially my fault, I gotta admit that, right? But somehow my account number changed. You would think that after a month or two of not making my payments, the HOA would send me something and say, you've missed these payments. No, that never happened, you know? And I'm thinking, hey, my money's coming out of my account, it's being paid, right? I'm good. But then I decided to get on as a candidate for an election. All of a sudden, you owe $700, sir. You can't be on the board. I said, what? You know how outrageous that was? So this is what I'm saying. That's my experience, and that's the only thing I can speak. But I'm telling you that I've heard stories from other homeowners. Some of them sound like they're really bizarre, but I don't doubt that there's some truth to it.
That's just from something like that, not even a month, days where, for some reason, the RFA didn't go through. And I was paying $1,000 for anything that was
one thing.
$100. They're making me pay $700 on the lawyer.
Yeah.
Not even in.
So this is why collection policies that are in writing is a good thing. You understand? Because then everybody has an understanding that if you're late, this is what happens. Now, I'm a strong believer communication is key. If anybody doesn't pay their assessment, they should get a notice. You didn't pay. And they should get it, you know when? That same month. They should get that notice. Not 3 months, not 6 months down the line when they're late 5 or 6 payments. They get it right there that month because it's easier to deal with. You know, now if you're sick,
I can't afford to pay, regardless of what we think.
there's a process for that. Right?
So, I think that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that, we need to, as a community, and not just as a board, we need to take a look at each individual situation in particular. For example, if somebody's going through a particular situation that for 1 or 2 months won't be able to make a payment, maybe we can arrange a way to get back on track on month 3 or 4. So what I'm trying to say is each situation is different. We can't put everybody in the same
No,
pocket.
I agree with you,
Okay.
but I personally want to make sure that everyone is paying their dues consistently, on time, or within the year. I don't care if they write a check, and they write one check after 8 months, but they didn't have the money, and all of a sudden they were able to gather the money, right? If they can't afford the HOA, right, if the lien goes up against their house, and we get them out of the community because they can't afford the lien, period.
When you look at the 489 units, the amount of people that are behind on payments is very, very small.
Okay.
And that happens in every community. Even when we were talking, Minnesota, they take it. This is being on their yacht, this, that, and thing. So,
You know,
we're not saying for.
yeah, and things can happen to everybody, to all of us.
In health and death and.
No, I'm not, I don't think down to people thinking I'm an ass.
No.
I'm saying that if they can't afford it, they come to the board and say, I need a 3, 4, 5.
That is the
For
one
a
thing.
breather, I'm okay with that.
Right.
That is the one educational point that I would like every homeowner to take out of this board, is that no matter what we send you, whether it's a violation, a bill, whatever, if you can't deal with it, let us know. Give us a call, write it up, tell us, and then tell us what you can do, right? Because we're not here to forgive people for paying their assessment. That's not what we're here. That's HOA money. That's not my money. And I'm gonna tell you, I've had people come up to me and kind of like, hey, like, let me go. I'm like, we don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's HOA money. And the money belongs to the HOA, and we will collect it. And if someone can't pay it immediately, there has to be a contingency plan to pay it.
Right.
If not, then the attorney has to deal with it. This is why we don't collect it personally, because we don't know the law. We don't, like, I know there's, people that file for bankruptcy, you can't be collecting their money. What do you do that? You know what I'm saying? So the lawyer has to follow the legal things to make sure that we don't get too much trouble. And that's what makes money.
Well, I'm willing to help you put together a group to go after some people. I'm willing to help.
To go after people one. I'm thinking. You mean for the special assessment thing? For the special assessment? Yeah. So look, the recall took just over 3 months to collect the votes we needed. So I figured it takes about that long. If we can get more people on the ground, it'll take a lot less.
Yeah, because we need a couple
The start waiting. You know homeowners that live in their house, and you know them, you say hi to them every morning. If you plant that seed and say, hey, we're gonna have to pay $585 when you get out of this contract, start saving your $50 every week now, and in 10 weeks you'll have it.
That's our.
Listen, I'm saying 18, I'm going to last month for bourbon. There's new with $80,000.
So is there any way that,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Skip.
is there any way that you can share, or the HOA can share with the rest of the community, what was the agreement that was signed between the HOA and the new, the cable person, and also the new contract or the new agreement that was signed?
So, yeah, so we don't have privilege right now to have a contract with Spectrum, because that's a deal between BSO broadband and that. But we're not privy to that. They gave us the numbers verbally. Now, when we have this money, we show up, check. The lawyers have to do all that, make sure that all the paperwork is done and that the contract gets assigned to us officially and all that good stuff.
But is he talking, you're talking about the what?
Oh, 7 days. What we have is the agreement that we made with the VSO broadband company, that if we can come up with this amount of money by February 1st, our deadline, we're hoping to do it in January if we could, but February 1st, if we don't have $475,000, then this deal goes away and we'll just keep paying our contract. What are you going to do, right?
So now we have the cable system, internet, but then we have one less receiver.
No, you have one more receiver.
We used to have three before, now we have two.
So we have one receiver and.
And two DTS.
Yeah, the BDA, BDA for five. Now you have two receivers, all you get 200 megabytes. Basically, the channel lineup has gone up. I don't know, does anybody look at their channel? I feel like it's the same channels over and over and over and over and over.
That's a portion.
Correct.
Both sides, they told me all the lineup that is not included anymore. Including the.
Good to know. The paperwork that they sent said it was more channels.
One more channel, they went to some light, they went to. Or you and
Right.
that is the longest, because they want to save money, that's what we need to use this time.
But they downgraded
Yeah.
But they downgraded what we had. I just don't want to just not a pay. Extreme. You know, for me, if it meant having internet only and having everybody get their own TV, but I don't have that staying.
I just need to watch the video.
So, here is the thing that we signed.
So yeah, oh, 11:30, so we might come back like on the 22nd, we only got 10 days for this.
No, this is the first meeting that we had with them.
Correct.
Then we voted.
Oh, so it was on the 30th of November, yeah, that was the day that.
It's on the website, you can vote on the BSO.
That was the day, I thought it was 30th, so it was after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And then after that, then in here, we had the close where the contingency is to
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
By December 10.
by December 10, we're supposed to get it. at full.
Yeah, they gave us 10 days to get it approved by the board, in order to make it effective.
Then this is the resolution that we took here on December 8th. That was adopted.
That's almost 8:48. Thank you all for coming, I appreciate all the ideas and comments, and, you know, I know it's a tough job. Hopefully, we'll have our team, you know, I know, it's a way, you know, how to do it.
Yeah, it's all right. Is that everything else? Guess you need like ice cream, so.